Hello, everyone. This is Charm City Decoded. I'm your host, Sophina Turner. I welcome you all to a new episode. This episode is like a reaction to some degree, I guess you would say, because I want to inform everyone that Netflix has a new movie out, and it's called Shirley, and it's about Shirley Chisholm. And I did an episode referencing Shirley Chisholm and who she was, and I'm going to just do a rehash on that. She was the first black woman to run for president of the United States back in 1972. Now I'm going to explain why I want to do this because this was played by one of the legends, Miss Regina King, and I think she did a fantastic job perpetrating as Miss Shirley Chisholm. I think they chose the producers, directors, whomever chose her to play this part because I believe they've been, working on this movie for some years, but they chose the right person to play Miss Shirley Chisholm. Miss Regina King has been out here for a very long time. I remember seeing her the first time I ever saw Regina King was when she was on 227 as the daughter with Marley Gibbs and her husband, who I believe his name was Wesley. I can't think of it. I can't think of his original name, but anyway, but it was Lester on the show. But so let me correct myself. It wasn't Wesley. It was Lester on the show, and Marley Gibbs played her mom, and she was the daughter. And they had that nosy neighbor who always was sitting out her window watching the neighborhood and just gossiping about everybody and everything. She kept her eye out. I mean, I don't mean to harm. I think she was like one of the first neighborhood watch. If you ask me, and I think that's how the neighborhood watch was created. Because of people like her, as far as her character, who looked out for the neighborhood. Because even though they saw what was going on and they talked about everybody, but they also was stayed informed and they kept their neighbors informed. So I thought, to me, when you think about it, that was a great idea. So, but yes, that's who's playing Miss Shirley in the movie, and it's on Netflix, as I said. And um, I definitely would rate it as because it's Regina who played the role that made it to me, in my opinion, go up to a nine. Um, so yeah, out of a 10, I give the whole movie a nine, just because I believe she excelled at playing that role, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, so back in 1968, we had 435 elected to Congress in the House of Representatives. And at that time, only 11 of them was women. Uh, Five of them was black, but there was no black woman. So Miss Shirley Chisholm was the first black woman to be elected to Congress in the House of Representatives back in 1968. So that's a great feat right there. And of course, that's the history books. But she started out as a school teacher when she was elected to Congress. So wow, right? But that's not surprising because she was a very intelligent woman, very astute, very aware. She was humanitarian in her own right because she loved she loved people. She loved trying to help if she can. Based off of what I watched in the movie, she definitely was that humble person, or she never forgot where she came from, and if she can make a change, that's what she did her best to do. Um, it was the 91st Congress, that she served on. She also, spoke a little Spanish. That shouldn't be surprising either, really. She's very diverse. It's just so many things. I know some of her white counterparts who was in Congress, and of course, male white old men. Uh, they didn't like that she was making the same amount of money as them, and at the time, that was $42.5 thousand. So back then in 1968, $42.5 thousand was a nice amount of money. and that was a great salary to have back then. Yeah, a lot of them didn't like it. They did not like that, and they also put her. I guess the Speaker of the House back then, he wanted to put her in charge of the agriculture committee, and she said, no, she fought against that because she said she's from Brooklyn. She want to serve her people. Being in charge of agriculture, how's that? So she fought that and won. That's just a testament of her strength, right? So yeah, she did a great job as an elected official because she loved her people. So back in 1971, it was a women's group. I don't recall what the women's group name was, but they stated that she told them, and I think this was out of California, I believe. She told them if they was to raise up to $5,000, then she would run for the president of the United States. Well, honey, they raised damn near $10,000. They really wanted her to run, and that's how she looked at it. And she said, if and she also still spoke at colleges and universities and things of that nature. And a lot of the young white students would come to her and asking her, Miss Shirley, when you going to run for president? When you going to run for president? So she felt in her heart that she thought in her mind and felt it in her heart that if she can run for these for them, why she can't run for everyone, like us. So that's what made her decide on in doing it. And she had a husband who probably did have doubts, at first, but he supported his wife. So that's just how it was. So she went, she ran. So, and at that time in 1971, now this is a little footnote for anyone who may not be aware, but in 1971, in the United States of America, was the first time 18-year-olds was able to vote in an election. So I don't know if y'all was aware of that, but I thought that's a good footnote to be aware of and to share. So I want to share that with y'all in reference to that. So yeah, back in 1972, she put in her ballot for the president of the United States for her to run. Now back during these times, it's always issues that come about. She was already born black and a woman, so those two things right there. When it come down to gender politics, how men, especially back then, white old men, they didn't think that any woman should be, especially a black woman, should be in a position that they hold. So that was. And then the president of the United States, which they say is the most powerful position here in these United States of America, or in the world, as they say. So, I mean, hey, they didn't want that. So, of course, you had that gender politics working against her. And, of course, the race. There's always going to be racism. And back then, 1972, you think, if this is here we are in 2024, and we still dealing with a lot of racism. So, imagine back in 1972 what she dealt with as a black woman, the era, that she was in. And, they say how she was a great listener because I saw that as, when she went around amongst the people and was talking and they even, they had those block parties. Do y'all remember block parties back in the day? Do they even still have those? That's something right there, right? That's how the community got to know one another, how you got to know your neighbor in a lot of ways when they had those block parties. How we do us. I have to say in the black community, when it's time to party, it's time to party. So that's what I was going to say about that. And that's during the era of the busing. When they had their first round of busing back in the 1950s, but then the second era came back in the 1960s, the late 1960s. So that's all what's going on and what she's dealing with. It's just a lot that she was dealing with back then, but she still put forth that perseverance. Perseverance is very important when you're running for anything of positions, especially powerful positions. And that's who she was. She was a perseverance individual. She was a strong individual. She didn't back down. Her motto was unbought and unbossed. Unbought and unbossed. So That's a great motto to have. That's the type of mentality you need out here in this world, because if you don't have it, then people can walk over top of you. You really got to think, and you got to put people, surround yourself. I'm sorry, with people who you can trust and who's going to have your back. And I know that's hard sometimes, because some people can grin in your face and ready to put that dagger in your back. So you got to be very, very careful and mindful that you can't trust everyone, but you can't be distrustful of everyone neither. So you got to try to put the right team in place that's going to assist you with what your agenda is and what you're trying to do, and believe in you, so they can help you to get it done. And I believe that's what she had. She had certain ones in her on her team who did assist her and who she trusted with her life. And but there was one person who she should have never trusted, and his name was Ron Dellums. He was a black man. He was in Congress, and he said he supported her. She was like a sister to him, this and that. But at the end of the day, he gave all his delegates to the white man. I guess he thought that was best for him, because back during those times, if y'all understand what the Uncle Tom syndrome is, and this is how I look at it, this is not what's out there. The Uncle Tom syndrome to me is when you have to do what you got to do to survive out here. So if that means it seems like you're catering to the ones who you think you shouldn't be catering to, like our white counterparts, it is what it is. That's the Uncle Tom syndrome. You're trying to survive, you're trying to make it, and you're trying to be relevant. And I think that was his idea, but he put all our false impressions to Miss Shirley Chisholm that he was on her team and he was for her and he was voting, he was with her all the way, when honestly he stabbed her in the back at the end of the day. So you can't trust everyone, because everyone have their own agenda. So you got to be mindful of that. You got to be mindful of that. You got to be mindful of other people's agenda, but stay focused on your own. Because everyone have their own agenda at the end of the day, but you got to stay focused on your own. You got to really, pursue and put thought into what it is that you're trying to do, what you want to do, and what you are willing to do to push your agenda. So I think that's what Miss Chisholm had. She knew what she wanted, but you can't distrust everyone. So she tried to believe what you told her, even though you can't always believe what everyone tell you. So, but yeah, she served 7 terms from 1969 to 1936. That's a long time. That's a long time. 1969 to 1936. I'm sorry, I was correction. I'm sorry. She served from, I said 1969. I mean, she served from 1969 to 19, I believe. I think I got the ending of year wrong. I'm sorry. I had said 1936. What, I'm taking her back? But she did start out in 1969, and she served 7 terms in Congress. She also made sure that she... let me give you this little tidbit, because while she was running for the president of the United States, she also had to sue 3 of the major media networks, and that was ABC, NBC, and CBS, because they wasn't trying to give her any type of publicity, even when it came down to, they wasn't trying to allow for her to, when they go out for the debates, be a part of the debates, on their network. So she had to wind up suing them, and she won. She won. So that's saying a lot. Again, she's a fighter, and she's a fighter, and she will. You need more fighters, and I think, in my opinion, and you can differ in that. That's okay, but in my opinion, we have a lot of fighters in Congress now, really, that's trying to work for the people. And one of them that comes to mind, of course, is Miss Jasmine Crockett. And I know she's out of Texas, but she representing for the country. Believe me, when she stand up and speak, you're going to listen, because she's coming to you with facts. And, so we need people like that, who's going to represent and who's going to be there for this country, for us as a people, who's representing to make sure that the right is being done, everything is being done accordingly and fairly. She's going to keep on speaking up and speaking out. We know that, of course, Republicans, they are the majority right now in the House, but it's okay. That don't mean that's not going to change her and a few others, AOC, Alexander Cortez. It's just a few of them. It's just a few of them that's doing what they can to do, to help this country. You know, a lot of folks think that you voting people win is not going to change the outcome of what's going on out here, but it will and it can if you're voting the right ones in who have the who has the right agenda and who's for what it is you stand for. You got to participate with that. It's not just going to happen by itself. We all have to participate. That's what creates change, honestly, in reality, you know? So we got to keep that in mind. So, yeah, she did sue the three major networks, like I said, CBS, NBC, and ABC, and won. She wasn't always supported by all her family. She had a sister who always thought that their father, because it was like four of them, I believe, thought that their father always catered to her more, and spoiled her, and so she didn't always support what Miss Chisholm was doing when it come to her running for running for Congress, and then when she was also running for the presidency. But it turned around, and then she wound up giving her support because she saw the change. She saw what her sister can do as far as creating good change for their community, for the country, and she came around, which is great because everyone needs support in this world. We all need support, and it definitely makes a difference in our hearts when it comes from our family. And family is not always blood. Keep that in mind too. Family is not always blood. It's people who support you and care for you, who's there for you no matter what. Through your ups and downs, they're there. They right there with you. They not afraid to tell you when you're wrong, and they there to support you when you're right. It is what it is. They support you through everything, anything and everything. So, and it's just a lot to it. But yeah, so and that's why I'm glad that her sister decided to come around. You know, that helped. And that made her feel good. That made her feel when her sister told her that she loved her. So it was this. And this is how the type of person that Miss Chisholm was. It was this white man named George Wallace. He was also running, I believe, for presidency, but he was a racist in the Congress. But when I believe he got shot, and he was hospitalized because someone tried to assassinate him. She went to visit him in the hospital. She prayed for him. She talked to him. She held his hand, and he actually. He it's like a light bulb went off in his head and in his heart when he saw the humanity, the human side of who she was. So racism can be conquered, but one at a time. It can. And you always gonna have your biases. We all have our biases. We all have our prejudices. That's just how life is because we see things in our own view, in our own light. And not to say that we can't change because we all can, but there are things we just ain't going to agree with. And, it is what it is when it comes down to that. We just not going to agree to everything that someone may do or say, how they live. That's when judgment come in, and we shouldn't judge nobody, right? We shouldn't. You don't come out the door with preconceived notions of anyone. You don't judge a book by its cover. I know you heard that old saying. And I know we do as humans, we do that a lot. Which we need to, when we see ourselves doing it, we need to really say, catch ourselves. Say, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. We got to stop ourselves from doing it because it's hard. It's hard because we live our life in a certain way and we expect others to live it that way. No. They their own individual. They their own selves, Just like you are who you are. You don't want to come in and try to take and change who you are, and that's who you're comfortable with. And not to say that we all can't feed each other with certain knowledge that can enhance or help us to be better. Because we should be open to receive. when it comes down to knowledge and information and any helpmates that's going to help us to improve upon who we are as a person. We all need that. So I'm not saying that, but just don't try to change who I am because you don't like it. And I happen to love who I am. So that's all I'm saying about that. So we also had Miss Diane Carroll, who was a supporter of rights. She was an activist, back then, and she has passed now. She was another great actor, really. She was a great actor, wasn't she? But she stood with the Black Panther Party, and she was the one who brought Huey Newton and Miss Shirley Chisholm together for a meeting at her home one time. And throughout, as she called them thunder and lightning. That's how they was with each other in contrast. So that's how they mixed together. And when they had their meeting and he saw what Miss Shirley Chisholm stood for, he put his support behind her. The Black Panther Party put their support behind Miss Shirley Chisholm. And then it's not like she didn't have people gunning for her. She almost was stabbed. I mean, literally, this person, he was a Caucasian male. He came real close to almost stabbing her, and there was people in that group that was close to her that caught him and prevented him from doing that. So she has had a lot of doubts too. In those positions you're going to have some doubts because it's just sometimes life happens where you can't help yourself, but you got to keep going. You can't let like what others do or say or feel dictate what it is you're trying to do. If you know in your heart that what you're doing is right, you can't let no one come in and try to change that. But she didn't win. As y'all know, she didn't win, but I believe from how the movie went, the reason why she really didn't win was because of racism and sexism. That's still big now, We finally getting women a chance to be on the same salary as men when they doing the same job. So, but back then that was racism and sexism. It was off the chain. It was off the chain. So those are the two factors, the main factors on why she did not win. But as I said, she served 7 terms in Congress, introducing more than 50 pieces of legislation. She improved the lives of inner city residents. She also helped with the military veterans, immigrants, refugees, and more. She just did it all. She did what she could to help humanity. That was her life's journey. That's what she did. Yes. I believe she passed in 2005, if I remember correctly. But she did the best she could. As I said, the movie itself, played by Regina King, was done well. She did a fantastic, outstanding job as playing Shirley and Shirley Chisholm in the movie Shirley. So I would suggest everyone check out the movie, support Miss Regina King in that role, and learn a little bit more about Miss Shirley Chisholm, who was a great woman in her own right and who helped to better this country in her own way. This is Charm City Decoded. I am your host, Sophina Turner. I bid you all a great day.